So, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lydia Olson, and I am the Technical Specialist for the Massachusetts Rivers Alliance. Welcome to the Rainwater Readiness Stormwater Workshop webinar series. This webinar series offers information about grant and loan programs that are available to be utilized for stormwater management projects by managers from municipalities, nonprofits, and other organizations that may be considering such projects in the future. For the 2025 Stormwater Workshop webinar series topics and schedule, please visit the Mass Rivers Alliance website. We are still adding sessions to the series, so we recommend that you check the site frequently for the latest information. You will also find all the information and recordings for the in-person session of the series, which took place last week, in our previous Stormwater Workshop series in 2023 there. Today's webinar will be discussing state grant programs, specifically those available through the Watershed Planning Program. Please mark your calendars for the next webinar, next Thursday, October 16th at noon, where we'll be talking about grants available through various Massachusetts state environmental programs. So a few housekeeping items. The session is scheduled to end at 1 p.m. Please put your name and affiliation in the chat, as Anna already asked you to do. Please put your questions in the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen, which Mass Rivers staff is tracking, or hold them until the last 10 minutes question and answer session. And these webinars are being recorded. Recordings and any other webinar materials will be made available on the Mass Rivers website. Lastly, we ask that you please complete the evaluation survey. The survey has been crucial in helping us continue and expand the series. We'll put links to the survey in the chat and also send it to you after the webinar. And now I'm delighted to introduce our speakers today. We have Judy Rondeau, is the Outreach Coordinator with the Non-Point Source Management section in the Watershed Planning Program at Mass DEP. She coordinates with state, local, and federal partners to implement the Watershed Planning Program, to implement the Massachusetts Non-Point Source Management Plan. Judy has a background in urban stormwater management. And we also have Courtney Starling, who is the grants administrator for the Bureau of Water Resources at Mass DEP. So I will let them take it away and stop sharing my screen.
Great, thank you, Lydia. All right. My presentation. Let's see my calendar. All right, so hopefully everyone can see the presentation. Nope, doesn't look like it's sharing. Hang on.
We can see it.
Okay.
No, you did have it up.
Sharing. Uh-oh. It wasn't outlined, so I didn't think it was there. There we go. Okay.
Yes, you're all set.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you so much for that nice introduction. So Courtney and I are really pleased to be here today to share information about our grant programs with you. I'd like to start off with just an overview or an introduction to the Watershed Planning Program in the Non-Point Source Management section. So the Non-Point Source Management section is one of 5 sections in the Watershed Planning Program, along with Surface Water Quality Standards, Water Quality Monitoring section, Data Management and Water Quality Assessment, and Total Maximum Daily Loads. All 5 sections are guided by the Clean Water Act, and each has a different technical focus. And together with other Mass DEP programs and state environmental agencies, the Watershed Planning Program shares the responsibility to secure the environmental, recreational, and public health benefits of clean water for the people of the Commonwealth. The Non-Point Source Management section administers 2 federal Clean Water Act grants, the Section 604B Water Quality Management Planning Grant and the 319 Non-Point Source Implementation Grant, which we'll talk about shortly. And the team is comprised of our section chief, Dr. Padmini Das, Malcolm Harper, who coordinates the 319 grant, Megan Selby, who coordinates the 604B grant, and of course myself. All right, so with that brief introduction, let's get on to the grants. So I'm going to provide a brief overview of how our grants work together to fit into the larger framework of stormwater management at Mass DEP. And then Courtney will talk about the MS4 grant, and I'll talk about the 2 Clean Water Act grants. So we manage stormwater at Mass DEP from both a point source and non-point source perspectives. And on the point source track, if you will, we manage stormwater primarily through the NIPD's permitting process. And for the purpose of this presentation, of course, we'll be talking specifically about the MS4 permit, the MS4 grant. And as I said, Courtney will talk about that in a few minutes, so I won't say anything else about that. On the non-point source management side, we have 2 Federal Clean Water Act grants, as I mentioned, the 604B Water Quality Management Planning Grant and the 319 Non-Point Source Implementation Grant. And these 2 grants work together in tandem to manage non-point source pollution in the state. So we recommend that grantees first apply for the 604B grant to do all of their planning and assessment work. And then they apply to the 319 implementation grant to actually install the BMPs that they've designed through the 604B planning process. So within 319, we have 2 areas of focus that we fund. The larger amount of our funding available goes towards implementation projects. And those are best management practices that restore impaired waters. So those are waters that aren't meeting state surface water quality standards, and as a result, they've been placed on the impaired list of waters. The second area of focus that we fund is capacity building. So these are what we call non-implementation projects. So we're not building anything, but what we're doing is we're trying to help to improve the capacity of organizations to take on these implementation projects. And then the third area of focus that we have is healthy watersheds. So these are grant projects that focus on protecting healthy waters. And of course, while it's important to restore water bodies that have become impaired, it's equally important to try to protect waters that are still healthy so that they never become impaired. Now, on the 604B grant side, we will fund projects that are associated with water quality assessment. So it's important to understand when you're planning an implementation project or when you're addressing your MS4 permit or any other NIPD's permits to understand what the status of the water quality is, right? What is the impairment that you're dealing with? What are the pollutants you're looking at? And what is the level of pollution? And I think at this point, I just want to add that while under 604B, you can use 604B funding to address NIPD's permit requirements. You cannot use 319 grant funding to address any NIPD's permit requirement or the requirements of any consent order. Under 319, you can address or implement projects that aren't requirements, so it's not completely prohibitive. If you have a project in an MS4 area that is not a requirement of your MS4 permit, you can apply for 319 funding. But if a project is explicitly a requirement of your permit, it's not eligible for implementation through 319. But remember, you can use 604B funding to do your planning and assessment work if it's a NIPD's permit. All right, the next eligible activity is healthy watershed protection planning. So again, if you're trying to protect the water that is healthy, it's not impaired, you can do your planning work through 604B and then apply for your implementation funding through 319. You can conduct all of your engineering design work and your overall project planning through 604B before you apply for that implementation funding. And that goes for the MS4 assistance grant as well. If you're planning an activity that will help you comply with your MS4 permit, you can do that design work through 604B. And finally, you can use 604B to develop a 9-element watershed-based plan. And that is a requirement for implementation funding through 319. So if you would like to apply for 319 funding to conduct a project, you must have a Mass DEP accepted 9-element watershed-based plan in order to apply for that funding. So that's a very, very important element. And all of the other activities that I listed under 604B are also steps in developing a watershed-based plan. So if you're going to apply for 604B to do your assessment, to do your implementation planning and design, you're almost all the way there in developing a watershed-based plan. So if you would like to, or you plan to apply for 319 funding in the future, you can go ahead and take all that information and develop your watershed-based plan, and then you'll be ready to do your 319 implementation projects. So that is sort of a brief overview, or maybe not so brief overview, of how our grant programs all work together to address non-point source pollution in Massachusetts. And at this point, I will turn it over to Courtney to talk about the MS4 Municipal Assistance Grant.
All right, Judy, back to you.
Great, thank you, Courtney. All right, so having taken a overview approach, I want to take a little bit of a deeper dive into each grant now and provide information to you about them. So we'll start with 604B, the Water Quality Management Planning Grant. And as I previously said, this does fund all activities that are associated with your water quality planning activities. We talked about some of the eligible activities on the previous slide, so water quality monitoring and assessment. You can also fund activities associated with watershed pollutant source assessment. So you've evaluated your water body and you know what the pollutant levels are, and so now you can engage in activities that identify where your pollutant sources might be. This grant will also fund activities that are associated with estimating watershed pollutant loads, as well as load reductions that are associated with the BMPs that you'd like to implement. And of course, implementation planning and design, we talked about in the earlier slide. We also have a number of capacity building activities that are eligible under the 604B grant. And the first of those is an initiative that we started a few years ago called the Regional Non-Point Source Coordinator Program. And through this program, we fund regional planning agencies to act as non-point source coordinators in their regional planning areas. And so they work with their municipalities to provide non-point source coordinating activities. They work with the municipalities essentially to provide capacity for managing non-point source pollution that the municipalities may lack due to finances or staffing concerns. So that's been a very, very successful program for us, and we plan on continuing that into the future. Let's see, we covered the development of watershed-based plans, and two new activities that we included in the last year's RFP, include updating comprehensive wastewater management plans or targeted watershed management plans to 9-element watershed-based plans if you're in a nitrogen sensitive area in Southeast Mass, Cape Cod, or the islands. And this is important because both of these types of plans, which are required if you're in a nitrogen sensitive area, contain most of the elements of a 9-element watershed-based plan, but not quite all of them. And remember, if you would like to apply for 319 funding, you need to have a Mass DEP accepted 9-element watershed-based plan to apply. So by using 604B funding to update these two plans, it unlocks that 319 funding for you so you can implement the recommendations that are in those plans. And finally, this is another new activity that we've added in the last year or so, and that is conducting your regional scale watershed planning for nitrogen impacted areas. And previously, those two activities weren't included as eligible activities because they weren't included in our 5-year non-point source management plan. But we revised our previous plan to add these activities, and they are definitely included in the current plan, which goes from 2025 to 2029. So if you're in Cape Cod, Southeast Mass, or the islands, and you would like to do this nitrogen reduction planning, those are now eligible activities under 604B. So eligible entities for 604B include any organization that is a unit of government. So that includes regional planning agencies and councils of government, county government, conservation districts, interstate agencies, municipalities, of course, and federally recognized tribes. We're anticipating that the next RFP will be released in early 2026. Last year, we released the RFP in mid-March, and we're thinking that we're probably on about the same timeline for this coming year. The amount of grant funding is to be determined. We're still in the process of finalizing our award with EPA. So as soon as that's done, we'll know what level of funding we have available, and we will certainly make that included in the RFP. And for 604B, there is no match requirement. We do recommend to grantees that if they are able to provide some match, it will help to increase the competitiveness of their proposal. But certainly if you're a community that's not able to provide match, that's fine. It's not going to penalize you in any way during the review process. Megan Selby is our 604B grant coordinator. And if you have any questions about the 604B grant, or if you have a project that you'd like to discuss, please reach out to Megan. She'd be more than happy to discuss it with you. All right, on to 319 grants. Again, this is an implementation grant program, so this will fund any activity that's associated with implementing management measures to address and restore a impaired water body. It also will fund projects that build capacity. And in general, we can fund any other activities that are included in the current Massachusetts non-point source management plan. So eligible projects, of course, include implementation projects to restore impaired waters or to protect healthy waters, as well as projects that will achieve nitrogen reductions in those nitrogen sensitive areas. The non-implementation or capacity building activities that we fund also include the Regional Non-Point Source Coordinator Initiative. And in addition, under 319 funding, we also will fund an agricultural regional NPS coordinator. So those, similar to the regional non-point source coordinator program, this will fund any organization that is trying to address agriculturally sourced non-point source pollution. I mentioned in the previous slide, that we do fund capacity building activities and technology transfer. Technology transfer could be if you're interested in conducting a pilot project to test out a new non-point source method or if you are interested in installing a demonstration project. And it also would cover the more broad scale implementation of a pilot project that you had previously conducted. And then the final activity that we fund under 319 is the activities associated with determining the feasibility of establishing a municipal or a regional stormwater utility or stormwater collaborative. So that, again, it's a feasibility approach. So we don't fund the everyday activities of an existing stormwater utility or stormwater collaborative, but we will fund the steps that are necessary to determine if a collaborative or utility would be feasible in your community. So eligibility for 319 is much broader than it is for 604B. Essentially, any public or private organization in Massachusetts is eligible, as well as interstate agencies. So the only entity that wouldn't be eligible is a private individual. If you're a private individual and you would like to apply for 319 funding, you need to find a public or private organization that is eligible to partner with you. So it's very, very broad. As with 604B, we're anticipating that the next RFP will be released in early 2026. And we will be releasing a combined federal fiscal year 25 and federal fiscal year 26 RFP. So it'll be a 2-year RFP. Last year, if you recall, it was also for anyone that applied, of course, was a combined federal fiscal year 23-24. So we think going forward, we'll be doing this combined federal fiscal year. So we'll be releasing the RFP every other year. And again, we're in the process of finalizing our award with EPA. So the amount of funding that we have is to be determined. Now, with 319, unlike 604B, we do have a 40% match, non-federal match requirement. Last year, we were able to find match internally through the Clean Water SRF program. And so we're hoping that we will be able to do that again this year. So we're in the process right now of discussing that and trying to identify projects that qualify as non-federal match. So that is to be determined as well, but we certainly will announce when we release the RFP whether we are able to waive some or ideally all of the match again. Malcolm Harper is the grant coordinator for 319, and he also loves to talk to folks about their potential projects. So if you have any questions or you'd like to talk with Malcolm about a project, just reach out to him and he'll be happy to speak with you. So that is it for our grant. And what I thought I would do was just share a few projects that we have funded in the recent past to give you an idea of the types of projects that folks are applying for and that are being implemented. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with 604B planning grant, and then I'll talk about some implementation grants that were funded as an outcome of these 604B planning efforts. So the first project was conducted by the town of Braintree in the Manataqua River watershed. And they were looking to identify potential sites on town-owned properties that they could install stormwater management practices. So they embarked on an evaluation process to look at potential sites throughout the Manataqua River watershed in town. And came up with a list of potential projects, which they then kind of evaluated and prioritized. When they had done their prioritization process, they developed conceptual designs and cost estimates. And they also began a public engagement process to, inform residents of the town about the project and what the goals and anticipated outcomes would be. All right, and the first 319 implementation project that they applied for, we funded in 2022. And this was a bioretention basin that they installed at the council on Elder Affairs property. So through the 319 funding, they completed their conceptual design and installed this bioretention basin that treated the first inch of runoff from a roughly 10.5-acre drainage area. And the second project, also conducted through 319 in 2022, was at Watson Park, which is right on the banks of the Manataquat River. And because this was at a park, and of course they wanted to protect the recreational real estate, they installed a subsurface infiltration system that treated stormwater runoff from about a little more than 5 acres of area in that neighborhood. And they also had a little bit of funding left over after they completed the design work for this project. So they actually installed a second project at the Plain Street Cemetery, which was nearby, and that was an infiltration basin that they installed there. All right, the next project was a 319 project in the city of Framingham. This one we did not fund a 604B planning project for. I think they did their planning work through another grant funding source. But Lake Washaycom hosts the town beach for the city of Framingham, and it's very popular with the residents. There was a stormwater outfall to the right of this big tree here that discharged directly into the pond right next to the swimming area. And as a result of that, the swimming area was frequently shut down after heavy rainfalls because of high fecal bacteria levels. So what the town did was they excavated out that pipe and they installed this bioretention swale. And I think you can see just from these photos, there are a couple of check dams that they installed in the swale to create these little ponding areas. So when it rained, the water would charge through this outfall and would have the opportunity to pond in the, in these ponding areas and infiltrate before discharging or ideally not discharging at all into the pond. So they just completed this one this past summer. And so we're not sure what the water quality improvement results were, but it'll be interesting to check with them to see if they were able to successfully reduce their beach closures as a result of this implementation. All right, just a couple more. This is a 604B project that we funded the city of Everett to conduct, and the city worked in partnership with the Mystic River Watershed Association to install these street trenches, or I'm sorry, not to install, but to identify sites in the 8 Mystic River watershed towns to install these street trenches. And so they're really actually nifty retrofits. The Mystic River Watershed Association calls them small but mighty. And essentially you install them in association with an existing catch basin. And you can see from the design schematic here that the trench and the drain pipe in the trench is installed just slightly lower than the existing outfall of the outlet pipe of the catch basin. So as it fills with stormwater, it'll preferentially go into the trench first, and then once the trench becomes saturated, then the water will go out the outlet pipe as it previously did. And this way, they can catch not only the first flush, but they're able to catch quite a bit more of stormwater runoff, and get that out of the storm drain system. So through this project, they, as I said, they evaluated potential sites throughout the 8 towns of the watershed and identified 250 sites to potentially install these retrofit practices. And then they developed individual design packages for each municipality. And they also started to develop a stormwater outreach and education program. So in 2021, the Mystic River Watershed Association applied for funding to begin to install the street trenches at some of the sites that they identified through that 604B project. And so in this project, they installed 48 of the trenches in Arlington, Medford, Winchester, and Woburn. And they also installed a rain garden in the city of Woburn. And they continued to develop as well as conduct education and outreach to youth and members of the community as part of this project. And in the last grant round, we funded the Mystic River Watershed to install 60 more of these trenches. So they'll be installing those beginning next year in 6 municipalities in the Mystic River Watershed, and they will continue to develop and conduct their outreach activities. So that is it for my presentation. This is our contact information if you'd like to reach out to any of us. And that's it. So shall I stop sharing so we can take questions, Lydia?
Yeah, or also I think if you want to just leave this slide up for a few minutes in case anyone's
Okay.
writing your information down.
Right.
But yes, yeah. So Anna said if you want to put your questions in the Q&A, you are welcome to. And also if you want to since we do have a few minutes, if anyone wants to raise their hand and ask their questions directly, you are also welcome to do that. But it doesn't look like we have anything in the Q&A currently. Let me just check. No. Okay. Whenever there aren't any questions, I always hope that means you've done such a good job that no one, everyone's very clear on everything that went over. But we'll give it a couple more minutes in case anyone's typing anything.
Yeah. Yeah, would you like me to leave that slide up a little longer or shall I take it off?
What? Yeah. You're welcome to take your time because it'll be in the recording of this. So. Thank you for your comment, Nancy. I appreciate it. But it looks like we don't have any questions, so I guess we can just finish up a little bit early today, which I'm sure everyone appreciates, having a little extra time back in their day. So thank you very much, Judy and Courtney, for attending and speaking about your grant programs. Again,
we just got, sorry to interrupt, we just got one question in the Q&A.
One question in the Q&A, okay. So this is from Allison Dixon from the Berkshire Regional Planning Commission. Can an MS4 town get funding to design a BMP through any of your grants?
Typically, if you're going to design a specific system, the benefit would only be in one community, so that would not necessarily be eligible for an MS4 grant. However, on Judy's side, you may see them over there for design and implementation. Depending on construction as well, we also do at Mass DEP, though not Judy or myself, but we do administer clean water loans and subsidies through the Clean Water Trust. And so depending on the size of your project, because once you get into construction, it might be a little more than my $250,000 grant. And when you get to that stage, you may need financing, in which case the Clean Water Trust is certainly one option. I saw somebody from NEF is in the audience. That is the Environmental Project Bank. So holler to that person. But there are multiple funding sources when you do get to that level. But for something specific to one municipality, the MS4 grant would not be your best vehicle. But there are other options.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can add to that. You can apply to the 604B grant program to conduct activities that are required under any NPDES permit. So that would include, of course, your MS4 permit. But you cannot use 319 funding to do the implementation. That's a federal requirement that's placed on us, unfortunately. So if the activity is not required by your MS4 permit, but it's in the MS4 area, then you can apply for 319 funding. Yeah, but anything that's explicitly required by the permit is ineligible for 319 funding. But you can use 604B funding to do all of your planning work.
That's great. Thank you. Okay. Okay. She says, I was thinking of the 604B grant. I didn't think MS4 requirements could be funded, but I think Judy mentioned it could. Yes. And she says she has 2 communities that need funding for getting a design for their first BMP, and I never thought of 604B. So this is great. Wonderful. Well, hopefully you'll be getting an application next year.
Yeah, reach out to Megan, and chat with her about it too, and just kind of get it on her radar.
Okay, wonderful. All right. There are no other questions. Yeah, I think we'll just end a little early. So thank you, Judy and Courtney.
My
And
pleasure.
hopefully, you'll get some emails and some questions in the next couple of months. But have a great rest of your day. And thank you everyone for attending. We will put the materials up on the website shortly.